Hey everyone, hello. Please feel free to open your camera. It's a safe space. Feel free to put question in DM or there is a raise your hand option too. So go for it. And also let us know what you're smoking because it's a smoke-friendly environment. So put it in the chat and let us know where you're from too.
Yeah, brother, I'll let you know, like, this is the Chronic Relief. You know, I went to their facility the other day. It's a new LP. So I'm smoking their Gorilla Breath down here, and I'm in like Scarborough area, you know. I'm just 20, I'm a young guy, I like vibing out and smoking. All good indicas and hybrids and good terpenes. That's what I go for, you know. So I like vibing out and tuning in and see what feedback we have tonight.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Enjoy. Have a nice talk. Anything else, feel free to put in the chat what you're talking, what you're gonna roll, or what you're smoking right now. I am currently smoking some cactus liquor. It's a friend of mine that is the breeder of it. It's a cactus breath crossed with the leeks, and it is delicious. If you guys are like in BC, in Vancouver, I'll be happy to share some nugs. Hit me up. Otherwise,
that's not in Ontario, eh?
No, it's in BC.
Sure. You're teasing me.
What? I saw you, Kris. I saw you were smoking. Are you smoking some TGOD?
I am smoking some cherry mint with some of my own homemade hash.
Well, hash is always good, but it's always hard to find a nice old school hash. Like the only one I've tried was the Temple Ball hash, and I was like, to me, my opinion was a 50-50. Because I like more of like an Afghani kind of like an old school kind of hash.
We have a 6-month oak barrel aged hash under the Highly Dutch brand. It's like one of the few ones on the market that's like truly like 6 months. Like a lot of Canadian hash is just a shorter timeline, which doesn't always mean bad things, but we just have it a little bit different. So there's not a lot of like long lead time cure hash out there. So yeah, the 6-month barrel age under a Highly Dutch brand, like you should definitely try.
And thanks for those pre-rolls. It was nice from Quest. No, I appreciate it.
So we're gonna start the session. I'm gonna start by a quick presentation of everyone, and then Sabine gonna do a presentation about TGOD, and then we're gonna do a lot of questions. So feel free to listen and prepare some questions. Then it's gonna be a Q&A. So we have the chance today to have Kris, who is the master grower at TGOD. So it's our chance, us Budtender people on the floor, to ask the right question and to learn more about the plant and the technique of growing that he's using. So I'm gonna present myself really quick. I am Axel. I'm gonna be your host today. I'm one of the founder of Book Club, and I've been in the industry since a bit. I worked at Canareps, and I'm now the manager at Burb. And then we have here next to me, we have Casey. I'm gonna let you present yourself, Casey.
Hi everyone, so nice to see you. Casey with Budtenders Association. Excited to be here. Can't wait to learn about organic and sustainable growing.
And we have Kris and Sabine. I'll leave you the floor.
Hi, everybody. You might have met me before, and you might actually have met Kris before too, because Kris has done something before with Budtenders Association. But I'm the marketing manager here at Bazam Cannabis. Bazam Ltd. Sorry, name change happened. I always forgot about it. And I'm thrilled that I get to work on really cool brands all the time. And I'm thrilled to have TGOD and get the opportunity to represent the brand and work with Kris. So I'm stoked to be here to chat with you all today. Kris, who are you?
All right, I'm Kris Leblanc, and my role is the master grower at TGOD. But really, I'm the master grower and run the team at Ancaster. We got 100,000 square feet of flower, and we got about 60,000 square feet of veg. It's all living soil organic. We grow the green organic Dutchman brand, and we also grow the Highly Dutch brand. And a lot of our flower gets turned into a lot of the hash products, will be hash products, and some of it does get turned into Bazam vapes.
Awesome. Let's start with the presentation. I'm gonna share my screen.
Hi everybody, we're gonna do like 5 seconds of PK. Chris and I are gonna share it. We're gonna go back and forth to give you guys some like hot gossip to set you up for the rest of the session so you can ask the best questions and get all the answers that you want in a really valuable way. And yeah, it'll be amazing. I would love to know who's tried TGOD products before. Like, please toss it in the chat. Like, let me know if you've used anything, what your favorite is. I have been a stickler right now for the Maple Kush. I have Maple Kush with me tonight, but I'm probably not going to smoke it. TBD, we'll see how I feel. I already had a joint before. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, perfect.
So take us in. Green Organic Dutchman. You have probably seen PK decks from Green Organic Dutchman before, and this will be just a little bit different because now they're a part of like all of our brands rather than it being like the corporate entity. So it'll look a little different, and I'm excited to chat with you all about it. Let's go to the next one, Axel.
Let's go.
Amazing. And I'd love to know where everyone's tuning in from. I see a couple of familiar names, but TGOD's actually based in Ancaster, which is like kind of near Hamilton in Ontario. So there's always a good Southern Ontario vibe. You know, I have a brick from Hamilton in my apartment somewhere that my friend who lives in Hamilton brought back for me. If you are from Hamilton, you know what that is.
I'm going there. They have a 420 party out there.
They do. But yeah, TGOD, who are we? We are a certified organic cannabis company. And I think what's really, or brand with a couple of different brands actually underneath us. But what's really cool about TGOD is, from my experience working outside of cannabis and inside of cannabis, like this to me and what I've been seeing is like this is the most hardcore like certification, which is awesome. The organic certification that the facility holds and that Kris and Chris's team help uphold and maintain is the agricultural certification that's actually protected by Health Canada and Health Canada's regulations around what is and isn't organic. And it goes super deep. It goes deep into like what cleaning supplies you're using inside the facility, how much sunlight the plants are getting, like things that like you just don't always consider. So it was just really great to like be learning. Also I'm learning about these brands as they've come underneath our portfolio, and they're so exciting. And to like get to know that it was like really walking the walk and talking the talk was super cool. So I'm excited to have you guys hear it all from Kris. And then let's go to the next one. So yeah, just some like high level hot gossip, like we're pro cert. And the thing that I always kind of like to explain is that organic isn't like a protected term. It doesn't have like a specific legal definition. So that's why the third parties are good, because they help kind of give some credentials to like a term that isn't necessarily protected. So it's always good if someone says organic, just get their vibe on like what that person's version of organic is. And ours is a really sick version. And everybody has a slightly different version too that have different benefits. So yeah, Kris, do you have anything else to add?
Well, we are certified organic, right? So those standards, you know, if somebody has a Pro Cert label or an Eco Cert label or a Certified Canada label, that means that it does follow the stricter regulations that are laid out by the CFIA. So as much as it's, you know, it's a great story, it is actually a Canadian law, and you have to follow it by that. So, you know, the sunlight's the big one for us. That's the big thing that makes us really the significant certified organic grower in Canada right now, because we have a greenhouse to flower in.
Pretty great greenhouse. Oh,
very big, yes.
Toss it to the next one. So yeah, high level hot gossip. And I think what like we're really excited to be able to share and talk about is some of the changes that I think we've kind of hinted about if you've been on phone calls with me. And Axel, I'm really excited for you to also hear about this, because I know you really understand, you know. So as of very much soon, I'm not going to say 100% because you guys know how I feel about 100%, but the TGOD facility for the post-production methods are switching to hang-dried, which is going to be really incredible and just helpfully like lock in and preserve those incredible terpenes that are being grown with like organic, incredible ingredients in like robust soil that's kind of got like millipedes and worms in it because it's healthy and thriving. So we're just excited to be able to bring that out. Kris, I know you and the team have been really stoked about it.
Yeah, it's, you know, I've been with cannabis most of my life now at my age, and there's ways to do things, and we really want to see the best flower that we can do. You guys might hear sirens from my backyard. But I just knew that hang dry was the way to go, and we needed the facility and we needed the backing to get it done. Because when you hang 4,000 plants in a day, you need a lot of room to do it in, and you need the proper environment to do it in. And you need people to monitor it 24 hours for the entire time it's in there. And we finally kind of put it all together, and we are now utilizing 2 rooms, and we're into our 4th hang dry harvest. So, pretty soon you're going to see that product roll out into the market very soon.
Yeah, just like, thanks, guys. What's the next one?
That's very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, makes a difference.
It is. Yeah, it is a big difference.
Oh, living soil. Oh my God, we didn't even talk about living soil. Wow. Living soil, Kris will definitely talk about, but it's a huge factor to why our organic is really special. So living soil is truly, I think the easiest way to explain it is like, if you were like in the wilderness and you like are walking in the forest and you find that really dark piece of like earthy dirt that's got like bugs in it, and you can like see things kind of decaying, and there's like leaves in there, and it just looks like it's like good dirt. It's like, healthy and nutritious. That is what living soil is. So it's like really about like feeding the soil so that the soil is as healthy as possible, and is really replicating that like ultimate kind of outdoors like environment that the plant was like known to grow in, which I think is like very cool, which we'll definitely be able to answer all the questions about what's in the soil too, because there's like some fun, weird things that the team sources that also have to align with the organic certifications. Like, Kris, what's the squid stuff?
So we use a squid and a chitin hydroxylate. We use 2 different kinds, and it is basically the byproduct of the sea and fishing. So it's a renewable resource in our sense. It's a sustainable resource. But they turn it into a squid juice, basically, that's full of nutrients. And the chitin is actually full of chitosan, which is a pretty hot word right now in organic growing. So it's a big part of what we're doing.
Sure. Thank you.
That's yeah. Like you said, it's very much you feed the soil and not the plant. It's very much you let the soil do its things and communicate with the roots, communicate with the plant and the rhizosphere. It's really another way of growing, and it is very amazing, because when you think about it, back in the day, we know that the best vegetable have grown in the organic soil, and it's pretty much the same for cannabis at the end of the day. Next slide.
Yeah, next. I think that's actually kind of it. There's some key products that we've got coming down the pipeline. Sugar Bush is that the new one, Kris? Can you remind me what you're harvesting next week?
Sugar Cookies is the new one.
Sugar Cookies is the new one. I'm so sorry. And then of course the classic Maple Kush. And these are the new 14-gram jars, which I am obsessed with because it is a good size and it's like a good hold in the hand. And they're glass. It's a vibe. So anyways, thrilled about that if you have 14 grams in your province. I think most provinces have the 14 grams right now.
Hey brother, I was wondering, what is that new cross with, if you don't mind? Are you allowed to say or no?
Which one? The Sugar Cookies?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, Kris, you probably know.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's an old school cross. It's a, believe it or not, a Girl Scout cross with an OG Kush.
Killer.
The OG Kush has been with me for a long time. So
appreciate your dedication, and I hope I can try it soon. I'll let you know.
Report back. It's landing in June in Ontario. We can keep going, Axel. I think that's kind of the vibes. This is who we are, and like I just wanted to give you guys kind of like an updated version of some of the messaging, and you can see it. And please give me the feedback as well on like how you liked this. But I hope that kind of helps so you guys can ask like more specific questions too. Happy to be here, and thanks for being here, guys.
Is the 14 gram also a sustainable recycling packaging?
Yeah, it falls under like the same standards that the team usually uses. We did release the 14 grams in Manitoba and Saskatchewan in a bag, but that was like a temporary fix. And then in the other provinces, it's in the glass jars. And then once the Manitoba, Saskatchewan, it's gone, they'll replace it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Am I good with the sharing?
Yeah, we're good. Let's do it. Ask the questions.
I want to see the chat, being able to interact and see the faces of everyone on the room. Yes. No, I can. Perfect.
It's so funny there. But it's like, it's warm, nice here. It's cool. It's nice. It's not like cold.
Yes. All right. Let's get into the question. I have a couple of questions for you, Kris, because to be honest, I don't know much about you. I don't know much about your story. I don't know much about TGOD neither, so I have quite a bit of questions, and we're going to start by the basic. First of all, like, who are you? When did you encounter the plant? When did you meet the plant? When does the love story started with the cannabis, and when did you start growing?
Well, I mean, we'll talk, because such a good question, talk about a love story. But, I grew and sold my first crop in 1995. For some people on the call, that's going to sound like a long time ago. And from that time on, I got to travel, definitely in the late 90s, and cannabis was the real driver for a lot of the traveling. And traveling in cannabis could be a great companion as long as you're safe about it. That's all I'm going to say. So since that time, it was a huge part of my life. And, I never really stopped at it. Obviously, the MMAR days, the ACMPR days were great days, even in Ontario. But Ontario is very different than BC and stuff. We were much quieter about it, I would say. It was a different sort of a different environment. But as soon as legalization happened, I was in as soon as I could. And I should backtrack because I left cannabis for 7 years in a lot of ways. And I rented farm fields and I ran an organic farm. So I did market gardens, I did restaurants, and really, I never stopped growing cannabis by any means, but I really focused on, really learning how to grow other plants, which is really going to teach you how to grow good cannabis. Really learning, what made soil work and why soil was good. Tried a lot of different things, and brought a lot of that stuff to cannabis. My love of gypsum is something that came from my use in the fields just outside of my house here. Which is something that I
What does that mean, Kris?
Well, it's just one of these rocks that does wonderful things in the soil where it adds calcium and it doesn't change the pH and it actually solubilizes sodium. So, people at home that are wanting to use their living soil or their pots over and over again, I really recommend that they put, I don't know, their 10-gallon pot, they put a little quarter cup of it, 4 or 5 times a year, 3 times a year, and it'll have really no bad effect in your pot. But, and I came back into legalization, really focused on only doing organic. I went through a few LPs. I did a couple of farm fields for cannabis, put up a lot of fences, planted a lot of plants. And was doing that organically, and then the Green Organic Dutchman came calling, and it's been over 2.5 years that I've been focused in that greenhouse, and the whole time I've been there, I've never changed the soil. I always like to tell that story because it's a pretty unbelievable thing even to myself, how we never changed the soil. So I just really have been, over the last 2.5 years, really dialing in, we call it the program in Ancaster. We're farmers. We talk like farmers. The majority of my team have been farmers, have gone through the market garden organic experience, or have gone to college for greenhouse for cannabis. And so they bring a lot of that knowledge, a lot of that organization and science and technology. It's just we put it together in an organic way. I like to say, no pun intended.
That's amazing that you still have the same soil. It's like, that's what I love with organic and living soil. It's the longer you get it, if you have a proper formulation and you understand your soil and you taste it, the better it becomes and the happier your plant's gonna be. And especially if you keep using, the same genetics will communicate with your soil and even thrive better and better from generation to generation. It's very beautiful to see. Let's go back to your story. So how long have you been growing in that organic matter?
I would say my whole life. Guelph is, I grew up in Guelph. Guelph is a real organic town. It's got one of the oldest agriculture universities. My wife's father, they drove here pregnant from California with her, and he ended up being the dean of entomology. Agriculture is very connected here, and there's probably one of the first organic conferences at the University of Guelph. From growing cannabis, my mentor in cannabis was a living soil organic person from the University of Guelph. And, when I was 20 years old, that's who I started growing cannabis with, right. So he was spraying kelp on his clones in 1995.
Yeah. So you basically, for you, it was just the natural path to grow organically. Yeah. You never thought about another way of growing the plants, basically.
No. I always dream about doing it for fun. I read about chemical growing, especially for cannabis. It's kind of like something that I think would be fun, but I just can't do it. I don't have time, and I can't handle the smell of it. I won't lie to you. I find my nose is very in tune to the nutrients the plants want, and they don't want those ones. So
yes, and there has been, small studies, small like tests where they grow basically the same cultivar in the same room, just different mediums, and you see a drastic change in like aroma profile, flavor profile. And when you test, you're gonna have different ratio of cannabinoids, different ratio of volatile organic compounds. It's really, really, really amazing to see that. And a lot of time we're gonna see a more like aromatic expression in that organic living soil. It's something I've noticed. Yeah.
When you talk about the best food in the world at the best restaurants, it's growing at the best organic farms in the world, because that's where you grow the best food, right? And cannabis, I know cannabis is the same way, right? And I think that I always say the future of cannabis is organic, and that's just something that I really believe.
Yes, and it's actually a great transition about another subject of organic. It's also the fact that, like producing cannabis, for example, cocoa or like rockwool, it's a lot of waste and it's a lot of like energy consumed, and it's for the environment, it's all big and packed. And I'd love you to, speak about, that very like good sustainability farming that you're producing, that you can, if you can develop a bit on that and showcase. Maybe, for some people, some Budtenders to understand that it is important to consider that, because if we keep producing the amount of cannabis we produce with the method we produce, we're not helping the planet in any way, basically.
No, so, we take sustainability really important, but it's also really smart farming. And it's a very economical way to farm is to get your best product, right? And so, when we harvest a room of Maple Kush, we harvest 4,280 plants. If it was a very conventional chemical greenhouse grown cannabis, you would have a cube for the clone, you'd have a cube for your veg plant, and you have a slab for your flowering plant. And those cubes would all be full of old and leftover potassium, ammonium nitrates. I mean, it's just full of a lot of the chemical nutrients that they're using. And a lot of these facilities are upping their EC levels at the end of harvest to try to get the plant to really finish on time. So then we figured that we would throw out a large dumpster of rockwool. So we throw out a little over 13,000 pieces of rockwool every harvest. And, we're going to do 40 to 42 harvests this year if everything goes well. So you can imagine it's hockey rinks full of garbage that we would create. When we do a harvest, after we're done harvesting, you see a rootstock sticking out of the ground, and they come along and they use very old-fashioned market garden sickles, and they will cut out about a half gallon around, and they'll pull that piece out, and that will go to our compost pile. We have giant compost piles outside because a lot of these people will know that we have to account for every gram of cannabis, and everything that goes into destruction that's organic gets denatured with sawdust and soil, and that as well goes into our compost pile. And that giant compost pile feeds our community farm, where we have plots for the staff. And then last year we grew about 20,000 pounds of food. And this year we're going to try to grow even more. And I'm proud to say that I've just officially been given the designation of running the community farm as well. And we have a team, we have a lead, and we have 3 students that are going to come in. And we're going to really focus on, they're going to focus, because I'm going to focus on the cannabis. But it'll be a start of the day enjoyment and an end of the day enjoyment. But so the other really sustainable part that we have is water. And when they built the TGOD facility, they were really concerned about the watershed. And we back onto some protected areas that are protected from water. All of the water that we use in the plants comes from the roof. So the roof collects all the water. We have a 5.2 million liter pond outside that then gets brought into our irrigation room that then feeds our tanks. And before it feeds our tanks, it's filtered through UV and what we call static filters. Our clean water tank is 150,000 liters, but we'll only put about 50,000 liters through the plants in a day. We then collect all of the water in the air, and good healthy plants transpire 95% of the water back into the air. All of that water gets collected in our air handlers, and that gets put back into our pond. All of the water that runs off from the bottom of the pots, which we try not to do, but it happens, that returns to the irrigation room, and then we treat that through filters. And we then, using we use basically an automated greenhouse system that automates every recipe and everything we do. Okay, and it will actually take all of that treated water that was returned from our greenhouse, and it will mix it into our recipe, and it will measure the EC and the pH for us so that it doesn't overdo anything. And we utilize that on certain recipes, thus we never waste any water. And in my eyes, I don't use water. It's it's something that if it evaporates out some of the air filters, that's about all we do. So that's a very sustainable part of what we're doing.
It is amazing. It is amazing, especially in a greenhouse setting. It's like the only thing that you cannot like change, it's the light, because you need a bit of light, especially in Ontario. In certain season, you want to do light deprivation and stuff like this, but otherwise, it's yeah.
Well, and so I mean, this is an exciting thing. It's so automated. Our greenhouse, all of the greenhouse rooms are 12,000 square feet of flower, and they have over 320 LED lights in them. And all of those LED lights and every pump and all of the electricity at the facility, we create ourselves. So we run off natural gas generation, which is called combined heat and power. And then that actually creates the heat to heat the greenhouse and heat the building. And then when that water comes back to our energy center, it's a little colder, and we use it to then chill our engines.
Wow.
We'll store heat energy in a giant, I don't know, it's 30,000 liter heat storage tank outside. And at nighttime, if I have an empty room, which I have right now, I'm running a heat treatment because we harvested a room yesterday and we're going to plant it tomorrow. So right now I've got the room up to 40 degrees because there's no plants in there. And I'm trying to just destroy any bugs, get the soil going again right before, and we just give it a little bit of heat as if it's the hottest days in the summer. And we use that heat energy in that tank to do that. So we're not running a boiler, we're not doing anything like that. So the way the whole system works is very sustainable even for that.
That's amazing. I think it's the most sustainable like greenhouse I've heard of. It's little like you don't waste anything, reuse everything. I love the fact that your next door is like the farm where you guys produce the compost for working with. It's beautiful to see, and it is definitely this kind of like small, like hub where you create everything and everyone use the waste of the others. That's where you're gonna maintain, and you can still produce beautiful cannabis. I have a question for you. You said so you have those giant rooms. How many beds do you have in those rooms? How big are the beds? How many plants?
We have. It depends on the strain. And how I do it. So I'll plant 2,800 plants or 4,200 plants, depending on the strain. Is usually how I end up doing it. So I have 16 beds in a room. And I have, I'm terrible at my math here. 340 plants a bed? I don't know. You guys have to help me out on
16
that
times 340, if someone can do that. And
anyway,
so
lots and lots of plants. So a large staff. We move like a farm. We do big events with lots of people. We pump lots of music, and we get it done. We really get it done. Yeah, we harvest a room on Wednesday. We clean and prep it on Thursday, and we replant it on the Friday. And I'll flower it on the next Monday or Wednesday, depending on how it looks. So we don't waste any time. Yeah.
You do a very short vegetative stage.
No, so I have another part of the building we call the nursery.
Yeah.
That isn't under light and under glass, and we have LEDs, and it's multi-tiered levels. And I have 2 mother rooms, and I have a prop room where we use a certified organic Jiffy Pug that's made for us. And because we're certified organic, we use absolutely no rooting hormones whatsoever. So we have our own recipe of nature's lovely stimulant.
Yes.
Can you say one of the things? There was one thing that you said to me that it was the last time. Was it the seaweed?
No, willow bark is the big one that I use.
Yes, willow bark.
Don't give me the whole secret, but.
And we get roots in 8 to 14, 15 days on everything without any issues.
That's very good. You know what? Let's for the people who are not comfortable. First of all, I want to explain what's a bed. Basically, a bed is just a raised bed of like soil that you use, and you want to do a bed for living soil because you want a lot of soil to really have a proper like healthy soil with a lot of micro life, fungus and all of that. And I want to, if you don't mind, Kris, let's walk through basically the process of making a flower at TGOD from having the mother plant. So basically the mother plant is the genetic, they grow a giant plant and then they make baby out of that by taking cuts, they call. And then what do you do from that? Let's go for there.
So we've got our clones in our Jiffy, totally organic. 10 days later, they've got beautiful white roots popping out of the back of them. We then have a soil machine, and this is where we introduce the living soil. This is the only time I buy soil that is custom made for us. It's all mixed up. It's our recipe. That's the time we buy it and we bring it in. And we up pot into half-gallon pots. The Jiffies, we use a little mycorrhiza paste that we make for ourselves to really increase that area of the root zone. We then have those on 3-layered carts that then can move to a room that's full of LEDs, and it will live there. It'll be irrigated. It'll be fed. It'll be. We use IPM. We start using beneficial biologicals at that point. It will be topped at that point, and it will live there for 4 to 5 weeks. And then we're ready to go, like it's going to be tomorrow, and we're going to roll all those carts down the hall at once. That's how we like to do it. And we'll set the plants up on the table. So the tables are made of troughs. And we have over 1,400 troughs in the room. And the troughs are about 4 feet long, and they're about 1.5 feet deep, and they're about 1 foot wide. Okay, and I have 3 layers of troughs on a table, and each table is about 130 feet long. But when you look at the whole room, because we can put all the tables together, I might have to go inside just to you put all the tables together, it looks like a giant field. And it's roughly a 1/4 acre of a field, 10,000 feet. And it looks like a big giant field, and I can put all the plants together if I want, and I can separate all the plants. Underneath the plants is a air tunnel. We call it a slurp. And that is the only way we put air on our plants. That's how I heat the plants, cool the plants, dry the plants, and add CO2 to the plants. So we don't have any fans in our room, so thus we don't have any powdery mildew, any botrytis really at any point. That's in every issue for us. So they'll live in there for 63 days, and 63 days I will harvest the plants. We are really big into steering. We use a method of growing that's called plant empowerment. Any growers on here are interested. It's a very Dutch method of growing in a greenhouse, and that is really how we use our temperature and our humidity to get our plants to explode. And after 63 days, we steer them down to what we want, and we harvest them. And we harvest them in 1 day. We bring in a large team very early, and they will work through an entire room in 10 hours. And we'll have 4,280 Maple Kush plants hanging in a room that's about 6,000 square feet. And we're doing 10 to 12 days in there of a slow cold dry. And then we are hand bucking the top colas. We are taking the mids and the smalls, and we are using a bucking machine. And then we run them through our lovely Mobius trimmers. And then we put them in our turf block bags, and they'll be in there for 3 weeks before I'll let anyone touch them. And that is our slow curing process that we're doing, which is a nice another 3 weeks in the turf block bags. Gives us a nice finished product.
Very, very, very nice.
And any details that people might want to hear about, or?
I want to go back to 2 things because I think this is the right vibe, the right audience for this. So I think something that's really interesting, and there's been a few questions about cloning and some water questions too. But when Kris is transplanting the baby into the big trough, what's really interesting is when they harvest, it's kind of like the apple core out the plant and the plant roots. And it maintains, so they're not going in completely taking up all of the soil and fluffing everything around. The mycelium that's in the bed is there and is maintained. So when they replant that new baby, it just kind of fits into that hole. It's gets right in there, and then its root structure is able to join the mycelium that's been feeding all of these other plants for the past 8 years. So it's a really incredible, I think, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
It is a no-till process, I would say. That's a good word.
So you leave the roots in?
We leave the cannabis drops and spreads across. So we'll take out maybe a 7-inch, 6-inch diameter about 8 inches deep. You know, a little bit less than a half gallon of the direct roots and the stalk in the center, but all of those thread roots that have been created by that plant over those 70 days or 67 days in there, they all stay there. Absolutely.
So,
Hey, Kieran, go ahead.
go for it. Go for it.
I was gonna say, don't hate me. Like usually, because I'm not really that good at growing, but like for like those strains that you've been growing, like when you pop those seeds, like or whatever, how long would you say it takes to pop until you see it start to grow?
Well, when we're doing seeds, you're looking at, before you're going to see something actually finish, it's about a year, believe it or not, by the time, you know, you're going to see something. Because when we do a seed pheno hunt, we'll start 100 seeds, we'll find 50 males, we'll keep 50 females, and then from there, we'll start testing those out, looking for the structure, the THC, and everything that we want. And then we do some trials, and we send out some R&D, and everybody has an opinion. And if it's a go, then we start to slowly do limited time offers to small amounts. And then
So that would
we'll
probably
see it.
4 to 6 week process, right? I'm assuming.
No, sorry. That process is a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate the info. You know, I'm just young, so I like to learn.
Yeah, no. So something like, we have Gold Butter Mac. Okay. So I did that myself, and I made it in 2019. That's how long ago, you know, that seed was created, right? And the sugar cookies was after that. So
Yeah. And that's your one breed. Like you're happy for that one. Like you put all your work into it.
I put all the work. You know what? I learned not to be too attached to my work, except in the moment. You know, I'll love it, and I can't wait for the next. You know, so I'm really excited about the sugar cookies. I'm still excited about the Gold Butter Mac. But
I can tell like in your eyes, you already have like 50 more strains. It's just like, you know, it's hard for the OCS to take names, because it's like what you name it. It's like the OCS is like Obadu. You know, they don't like to submit your requests always.
Yeah. As someone in the chat is asking if you use any companion planting in your beds. Do you have any like other crops, any like cover crop, anything like this happening?
No, you know, we haven't tried that. You know, we talk about it a lot. We do get weeds in our soil though, just based on the fact that our soil has to contain actual certain amount of mineral soil to be certified organic, but nothing that anyone has to worry about. But you know, we see the odd thing here and there, and we do get little mushrooms, quite a lot of little mushrooms here and there that are neither good nor bad. They're just a sign of how much life is actually in the soil and mycelium.
Yeah.
And,
when you see mushroom, it's always a healthy soil. It means there is fungi and communication.
And we see the wigglers come up to the top at the end of the harvest because we're drying the room out, and they're coming up to the top looking for the little bit of water that we might give them. So that's a fun thing to see.
And I said also, because I was hearing, isn't it good to mostly, because people when they water the dirt, it's not really meant, but it's good to water like the inside more of the dirt, like, you know, so it gets to the.
Well, when you water your plants at home, you should water the outside of the pot. Always water the outside of the pot.
Because the inside needs to soak up more, right? The roots need to soak.
No, you want the roots. You want the roots to come out looking for water. That's what you want it to do.
And
more roots, more buds.
And usually in a living soil setting, you'd never want to dry out too much your soil, otherwise you're gonna kill the microlife in there. And what's your opinion on like for example, someone is asking, because I think probably she's growing outdoor or something, about like companioning, like planting. What's your opinion on that? If you have some knowledge.
You know what I mean. Things like, you know, any kind of pea, ryegrass, anything like that, that's a nitrogen fixing soil one, is a really good one. I really like buckwheat. Buckwheat will actually not just fix nitrogen, but it really will help with phosphorus. And, you know, even if people are doing gardens or small fields here as growers, you know, never let them go. You know, once they go to flower, you've got to cut them down. But what you want to do is you want to mow it in and you want to turn it in, right? Because you want to actually put that material in there. But I would suggest that, if that's a great sound, that if people are growing stuff, a really geeky soil thing to do is to, when you see plants die in the fall and they look all dried out and they're totally done, well, that's really good, because now that's even more carbonized for you, right? So that's a really good time to build your soil, or even your indoor everything, by getting a whole bunch of dried grasses or something and chopping it up and putting that in your soil. It'll do wonders.
Also, question for you: between every crop, So you're saying you're putting the plant literally at the same spots, but I'm not sure about that. But I've heard that, you know, when you have a plant in a spot, she will take it whatever she needs in that soil, so the soil will get poorer in like basically their needs, and that's why some people, you know, reamend and stuff like this.
So living soil, you know, really it's about using, you know, granular dry amendments, about using compost teas, right? And you're trying to create proper pH, proper nutrients. It's also a really healthy microbiology, right? So, you know, we do a lot of, you know, soil inoculation. We do that the entire time. It has nothing to do with the plants. It has to do with the soil. So basically every 10 to 12 days, it's going to get an inoculation.
Okay, so you're constantly reamending.
Yeah,
nice.
re-inoculating with a compost tea or some different compost tea products that we work with and we get going, because I like to use a real variety. When we transplant a room, we do work the soil back down to level, but we're working the soil very, very, very little. We're very gentle on closing the holes. We're not turning anything over. We have small hand tools. And
as naughty as you can.
If you were to go a cheap way, you see like the dirt outside, like, you know, just the regular dirt, would that still be okay to grow with? No. You know, if you just want to grow one seed? No? No.
Go get some potting soil at the garden center in Canadian Tire. They have organic gardening soil now. You can buy a little bag for $5.
There is no nutrients in dirt.
Cow manure is good?
No, I would just get a potting soil, something that's already mixed up for you. It's a lot easier.
And so do you, how often do you test your soil? And then also question, do you have a different formulation regarding the genetic you use too?
No. So, you know, that's something that, you know, like we feed all the time as well, right? We're using the same soil to do everything. The way I do different nutrients, different plants is the level of dry amendments that we add, as well as the rotation of the plants right now is something that we're getting into, because different strains create more biomass than other strains, right? Yeah. So that's something else that we do a lot with. We're big science geeks. We test everything all the time. It's beautiful when you work for a big facility like that that's growing lots of cannabis, because you have the budget to do that, to go to agriculture labs. So it's a part of our, what we call our event checklist. So every crop is on that. Everything happens on the same day if we can make it happen. And so we're doing soil sampling and leaf tissue samples. We do it soon enough so we can make changes if we need to. And we do it at the end and late enough so we can think about it for next time, but also understand what we want to do in that soil for the next crop. You know, it's something that I've always been doing as well. Definitely in my farming days is where I really learned how to do that. It was something that I started. I always work with one lab in Ontario, A&L, and they really moved from farming to cannabis, and they also really know organic and living soil. So they're really great people to work with. And yeah, that's a constant part of what we do, right? You got to know what we're doing.
That's amazing. And I'm so impressed that you haven't discarded anything since you started. It's like, it just means a lot that in your skills in farming, you know, it's beautiful, because it's easy to, you know, get bugs and everything. And I've been growing living soil and I had bugs, and I had basically to stop growing and discard my living soil, because when you have that life there, the bugs also live there and they love it. It's great for them too. So yeah, it's very impressive. I'm very, very impressed with what you guys are doing over there, and I'm really looking forward for the new drops, and because seeing the hang trim and everything, it's definitely
it's a different beast.
Axel, for you and I, we're very lucky. If anyone's in BC, the Maple Kush 14 gram is about to hit BC, and it hasn't been in BC before, so there's not any like older stashes that are not hang dried. So it's about to land at the end of the month, I believe, and that those new 14 gram jars are all the new hang dry. So I definitely, and there's a pretty decent like visual and I think flavor difference. It's like, it's pretty sick. Like Kris, you guys have like been obsessed with it.
Huge. It's every day. It's every day to get it there, and it's there. We're really excited.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a big change for me. It's definitely a big change. I forgot the question I wanted to ask, but what's your opinion on post processing? What's for you the best cure, and what was missing for you, like why did you decide to make all that change, basically?
Because we really grow unbelievable flower corner to corner. I mean, every cannabis, grower would say it's a washer, and they're all washers for us. We have glistening. Sometimes we'll have up to 12 to 15 different terpenes in our product. And we started doing a lot of R&D on it and really pushing on the bosses and showing them like, this is the way it's going to go. We've got to do the best that we can with what we have. I know it's this good right here. Let's take it all the way and make it that much better. And, they got behind it and, gave us the resources to do it. And, we really hope to expand it at some point a little bit. But at this point, we can do what we need to do. And we're looking at a 10 to 12 day hang dry. We have a whole team. I'm simply like the chef. I'm the opinion a lot of the time. And we have a harvest process manager and a harvest process supervisor that are, have a lot of chemistry background, a lot of understanding. We really modified the room. So we have what we call air handlers, which are basically giant air conditioners and heaters that are the size of your house. And we really modified them so that we could really do that first 24-hour, 48 hours to really get the plants down. And once we're there, we really go low and slow and really take our time as long as we can. So going 12 days is amazing. We then, like I said, we're going to be hand bucking. And that process is what's really going to, really show a lot of the TGOD brand stuff that's the premium, which is going to get sorted to show really big, nice flowers. And it's just that finished flower look, right? For me, no flat spots and totally preserving all the terpenes. Because what happens is when you start taking away the plant in a wet trim, you're taking away all the plant enzymes. And all those enzymes, like in our gut, are there to digest everything. The enzymes in the plant will digest the plant. And that is a big part of fermentation, which is curing, okay? People don't hear that word with it. And when you do a wet trim, you take away the plant's ability to just sort of slowly finish and cure. And with what we call a whole plant hang, even though it's long stalks, we leave the leaves on. We don't take the leaves off the plant. And we get a proper cure on the plants. Even by 12 days, it's unbelievable how ready I feel it is. And then we give it another 3 weeks in our terp block bags, just to really give it that final time, and then it comes out. And the amazing thing about the hang dry is our packaging team loves it because it packs so well in their eyes because every jar looks really good. So that's what we're getting.
Yeah, I totally agree. Leaving the stem and the leaves on the plant will help regulate that moisture. Basically, the stem is doing the moisture pike by itself. It's just regulating, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And so in the process, when do you trim? Do you trim before putting it into the terp block, or do you trim after the terp block?
Oh no. We take it down and we trim it. So when we take it down after the 12 days of drying, we will hand buck the tops, as much as we can. We'll mechanically buck the smalls and the mids, and all of it will go through our Mobius trimmers.
Okay.
And then we have somebody sitting on the end of the line, just making sure they're getting any crow's feet, any large leaf, and then it gets packed into the terp block bags at that point.
Perfect. I'm asking, so for the people who home grow or whatever, if one day you're curing and you haven't trimmed and everything, never like bag or bucket or whatever the untrimmed flower together, even if they're dry, because what you're gonna do with that compression and the gravity, you're gonna have all those leaves gonna get in contact into the bud, and the chlorophyll from the leaves gonna get into that bud, and you're gonna ruin the flavor, ruin the smoke. It's gonna taste like tea leaves. It's gonna burn black and it's gonna be terrible. So for the home growers, be careful with that.
Well, and our fan leaves, it's unbelievable. And to show people, we will somehow, when we have photos of our dry rooms, try to find the fan leaves, because in 10 to 12 hours, they're tiny little strings of nothing, and by a day and a half, they're absolutely crispy. And when we put them into our trimmers, there's just nothing there to grab, and you realize how much of the plant is really a big lumpy flower full of oil.
Oil and water. Yeah.
The leaves look so beautiful alive, and when you see them go down to nothing, you're like, oh, there's so much substance in that flower still.
That's amazing. And I wanted to go back to the beginning. Like, how do you guys select what's going to be on TGOD? Who's working on bringing new genetic? And then are you doing in-house or are you bringing outside? And then if you do in-house, are you doing your pheno hunts same inside bed or are you doing a different method for the pheno hunts?
So when I joined TGOD, we had the opportunity to bring some of my genetics in. So some of those genetics are some of the genetics that we see. And we've just done a pheno hunt of some stuff that will be coming out into the market. I'm not going to get too open about it, but we're growing enough of it that it's going to come out into the market.
Interesting.
And so constantly doing pheno hunts. We'll usually do about 50 seeds. We do a lot of regulars. We don't hunt a lot of feminines. I will, but normally I don't unless I know I can really get a good one. A lot of the genetics that we're using, a lot of genetics that have come my way over the years. And as well now we're starting to share genetics with the crew from Vizam, which is a great thing. And it's been going both ways. And we're going to be trying some work. They're trying some of ours on their HBS. And I've got a whole bunch of theirs going under our greenhouse right now, which is an exciting thing as well. Just more colors to play with for us. So that's
beautiful. And you did a beautiful transition. Let's speak a bit about that merging with Bazam. How does it shape TGOD? What's the future for that? Where are you guys heading? What's the vision? What's the strategy?
You know what? It's been amazing. It's been an amazing thing for us. I think that, we're bringing this beautiful facility of organic cannabis, and they're bringing this just really driving force of new products and new ideas, and really cannabis people. And I'm not saying the TGOD people aren't cannabis people at all, but there's a different energy that comes from some of the Bazam people that's definitely much appreciated. And the support's been unbelievable, and it feels like one right now. I feel like I'm at TGOD in Ancaster, and we all work for Bazam. It's a good thing. A lot of sharing now of our facility photos, our flower photos. It's excellent. And to really tell my horn, I'm one of the first employees of the month based on quality because I was pushing so hard for the hang drive, which I take as an honor, especially being part of the transition. So definitely something I never got in my life until now. Okay.
Congrats. Congrats.
We did get that new employee recognition program. I keep forgetting.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad to see that because sometimes from the outside, from the out public, it's like, oh, what's happening? What's it's emerging. It's never a beautiful look or it depends. So I'm so glad to see that. I'm so glad it's for the best, for the better, and you guys have probably some very, very good plan on dominating the market and bringing some beautiful, organic, sustainable flower into everyone's hands. Because I believe you are Canada wide, or are you just BC and Ontario? Canada wide?
No, 100%. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Is there anyone, because we are 5 minutes away to be done, is there anyone in the chat that has more questions? Maybe I missed some. I'm going to check it out. Please, someone want to raise his hand? Someone want to share something with Kris? Or maybe Kris, you want to share something with us?
I want to share a weird fun fact that I had that I thought was fun about water in the farming situation. So when I visited the farm the first time in Ancaster, I was like, okay, we've got this rainwater capture system. They've got this pond here. Okay, but what if there's no rain? I was like, if there's no rain, how are you capturing the rain? What's the plan for that? And as a person who also grew up on a farm, I'm asking this question specifically. And Kris, who did we do the tour with? The other guy. What is his name? But he was like, oh yeah, when we planned the capturement system and how much we would need to be holding in the tank at any given time, they based it off of the 100-year almanac for predicted drought years.
Brian Brownlee, general manager.
Brian, thank you, Brian. And I was like, holy. I was like, that is the coolest farmer science thing that I've heard. And I just to think that future forward, obviously TGOD thinks future forward in a lot of ways because sustainability and regenerative farming is truly the future. But that was a different level. I was like, that's 100 years out. I don't even know. And it was just a really farmer typical thing. It was really cool.
and we had one of the driest falls in Ontario's history this year, and we had no issues whatsoever. So
Beautiful. I saw Shailene. Maybe Shailene, you want to ask some question? Apparently, she wants to start into growing outdoors, and she has some question for you. If you had some recommendation, especially into the soil, the lightings, all of that. Maybe Shailene, you wanna ask in person? Please feel free to unmute yourself.
More or less, like I want to look into starting growing. My partner and I, we have a little bit of a space downstairs, and I was wondering, like it is an outdoor space. Like, would you recommend maybe like putting a bed in there? Would you recommend like container growing, like fans, specific lighting, anything like that?
it's an indoor space or an outdoor space?
Outdoor space.
Outdoor space. Okay. So, and you think it's tight? How big of a space is it?
It's pretty small, so it would only be like a few plants, probably. Just we're only limited to space, so like very.
I would grow 4 plants in the largest pots that you can fit 4 plants in.
Okay.
Yeah, like a 60-gallon, something like this, 100-gallon.
Yeah, I mean, it's big, like that, as big as you can. You know, just because you might want to move them, okay? You might want to even move them 2-3 feet in your space at different times for light or something like that. So, and you know, I mean, if there's not a lot of light, you're not going to get a lot of growth, right? Cannabis loves light. So if you don't have a lot of light, you want to find to grow like a smaller indica. That would be what I would suggest for you. You might get some yield and you'll get some THC on it, and it won't be hard to deal with. The only problem with that is if it is a tight space, you have to watch for powdery mildew on the small indicas in a small space. If you have a lot of light, you could put 4 pots in there, and you could do some hybrids and a sativa and an indica. And you might want to have the indica sitting on the southwest side of the garden and the sativas in the back part, because the sativa is going to grow really, really big, which is really important. I don't know, where do you live? Because if you're in Ontario, I can suggest it.
I'm in Chemainus in BC, but my partner, he lives in Nanaimo, so I'm going to be moving in with him probably in the next year or so. We've been discussing that and whatnot, and he says that he wants me to really grow some plants because I'm the one with the green thumb. And he was like, I can help water and everything. So I'm like, okay, well, what do I need to do then?
Yeah, so I mean, you definitely want to get yourself a book. You know, there's a lot of really good books out there, and there's a great Instagram site that I would suggest you start with, which is Build the Soil, okay? And then the other really good one is Black Swallow Living Soil, okay? Mm-hmm. And what these guys have is they will have, and they're in Ontario, so maybe you might not need to buy everything from them, but you'll be able to get the soil, the amendments, or at least to see what they have, because they really cater to organic living soil home growers, okay?
Yes. Highly recommend too. They have a YouTube channel, and they have beautiful, like how to make your own soil, how to mix and everything. Yeah. It's very properly made.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But just start doing it. Get it going. You can grow 4 plants.
The last time I tried to grow, I still had a cat, and I'd get the clones, and they get to the point, and he would start fucking eating them. Pardon my language, but little asshole, he would eat my plants, so I never actually got any yield off of them because of my freaking cat.
Yes, they love it. They are big potted. Yes.
You don't need any lights if it's outside. You don't want to do that. But if it's a really tight space and you can put a fan up, it's not a bad thing to do if you start seeing some white mold on the leaves. Okay?
All right. Let's go back at TGOD because we're almost at the end. Anything you're excited for this year with TGOD, Kris?
Well, I'm really excited about the sugar cookies. Okay? And I'm going to say, of course, I'm really excited about the new hang dry, and all the sugar cookies that comes out will guaranteed all be hang dry. That's 100%. But I'm also excited about our Dutchies, which is our hash infused pre-rolls. So this is our blonde and black hash in our cannabis or organic cannabis with our certified flower in pre-roll packs. They are excellent. So, sugar bush and the gold together, beautiful thing for a festival. Beautiful thing for a weekend park with your friends. Highly suggested. Okay?
It's beautiful. The hash always has been popular, so people will love the infused pre-roll because you know people are lazy and they just want to light the joint. So
Yeah.
I love it. Sabine, you want to add something? Maybe Casey, you want to add something? Or maybe someone has a last question before we close that room? Anyone? No? I guess it's gonna be it. Thank you so much, Kris. Thank you so much, Sabine. It was a real honor. Thank you for sharing, being that open about the beautiful work you do. Thank you, Sabine, and Kaishi to give me that opportunity to present. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And if you missed it, or if you missed a part, or if you want to share that session with friends, remember that we have everything going live on the YouTube channel, Budtenders Association, sorry. So feel free to go connect, subscribe, Instagram, all of that. And thank you so much again.
Anyways,
and have a wonderful day.
Where do you guys go?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Happy talk. Beautiful.
Take
We
care.
leave you on that bong talk. Enjoy. Bye, everyone.